Hi, this video includes an annotation and expansion on Maria, the case student for whom we're writing the IEP in RPSE 466. So I'm going to start with the background information section where we have some narrative to give us a sense of who Maria is. Maria is a 10-year-old student in 4th grade. This is significant to me because it signifies that Maria has had continuous instruction. She hasn't been held back a year, she hasn't repeated a school year. 10 years old is an expected age for grade 4. Maria's family emigrated from Mexico when she was 4. Now this is significant to me because it gives me a sense of how long Maria and her family have lived in the US. If she's 10 now and she arrived when she's 4, she spent the majority of her school career in the United States. Her parents primarily speak Spanish at home. This is significant to me because it means that Maria can use 2 languages to read, write, listen, and speak. Maria's parents report that they would like to see her improve in reading and language skills. The reason they want to see her improve in that area is so she can be successful in school and someday go to college. This gives me some insight into what I might be recording in parent concerns on the IEP, and also gives me a sense of alignment to the potential areas where IEP goals will be developed for Maria. Background information shows that Maria converses in English very well and that she has received instruction in the English language since kindergarten. Now, what I don't know here is whether Maria received support from an ESL, English as a Second Language teacher, whether she received support from a bilingual teacher, what the program model looked like for language assistance. I simply don't have that information to know what kind of language assistance Maria has been given. But what I do know is that majority of her instruction has been provided in English only at school. Maria's initial IEP was developed when she was in grade 3. So she's in 4th grade now. Last school year, the IEP was developed for Maria under the area of specific learning disability. Now, Maria's teacher reported some information. Some of the information is quite subjective. So we have a note that Maria is struggling to keep up in language arts. Further, she's struggling in most areas compared to her same age emergent bilingual peers. The teacher also notes that Maria has started to become withdrawn and appears to have few friends. Now, what we don't know is causation here. Does Maria's withdrawal and diminished friendships have an impact on her academic performance? Or is something about the academics difficult, frustrating, and causing her then to experience distress and be withdrawn? We don't know the direction there to determine how those 2 ideas relate. That would be something we'd want to expand on, just using our own hypothetical scenario that we create. We have specific areas flagged by the teacher as a concern related to language arts, oral reading fluency, comprehension, and then writing coherent responses. Now, we'd want to probe in real life and ask the teacher, in this case we'll have to imagine, what does it mean writing coherent responses? Are the written responses that she produces just really poorly organized, difficult to follow, almost nonsensical? Or do they lack cohesion? Like maybe she's not making it clear the antecedent that a pronoun refers to. So after looking at background information and interview data from Maria's teacher, we're going to look at some records. One record we have is results from a standardized test administered by the bilingual special education teacher. This test is showing us that Maria's grade equivalents in the domains of oral language and reading are falling below her currently enrolled grade level and below the level she was when she took the test. So she took this in 3rd grade. Grade equivalent score show that Maria's proficiency aligns with scores reflective of where expectations lie between the end of grade 1 and beginning of grade 2. So 2.2 is 2nd grade, 2nd month. 2.4, 2nd grade, 4th month. 1.8, 1st grade, 8th month. Now, having taking this test in 3rd grade, Maria's performance in reading fluency and comprehension do indicate an area of concern where more data would need to be collected. Additional data were gathered through the DIBLS, that's the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. The first test that was administered to Maria on the DIBLS was her oral reading fluency assessment. She was given a passage, grade level controlled, and directed to read aloud from that passage. Her rate in number of words read correct per minute was 35. The benchmark score for a reader of a grade 2 passage in the middle of the year on this particular assessment is 76 words correct per minute. This shows that Maria's score is falling in the range where intensive intervention is suggested. The retell fluency portion of this assessment asks Maria to retell what she read about. The assessor, in this case, simply counts the number of words that Maria retells. This is an optional assessment for the DIBLS, and what we can gather from this score is that the prompted retell, so being prompted to retell about this passage, if she read 35 words and she's retelling 30, she's actually attending to reading, making meaning while she's reading. But note that she's doing this with this off grade level passage. So right now she's in 4th grade and she was performing this retell with a 2nd grade level passage. Right, next we have a record of Maria's Northwest Evaluation Association Measures of Academic Progress. The school administered these benchmark assessments in the fall, winter, and spring of Maria's school career, starting when she was in 2nd grade, all the way through the winter of 4th grade. So we could consider that to be like maybe she's in 4th grade now and they're just completing this winter benchmark. On this assessment, we can interpret the RIT, Ross Unit Score, and the percentile range score. So let's look at how to make some interpretations and think about what these RIT scores mean for Maria in the areas of math and reading. So in math, at the start of grade 4, Maria's score was at the 4th percentile. That means she scored as well as 4% of the same age peers who took the test, or 96% scored better than she did. According to the norms for this assessment, and for students with a similar language acquisition profile to Maria, this score would suggest the need for intensive small group instruction in math. Now, in the area of reading, Maria's score is consistently below expected grade level scores every time she takes this assessment. Her discrepancy from same age peers is significant because her score is below the 10th percentile time and time again that she's taking this test. This pattern, based on the recommendations from the school district, warranted the need for specially designed instruction in reading. That would mean that would be an area where we are developing, in this case revising and updating, the IEP goal in reading. So Maria qualified for language assistance as an emergent bilingual or English learner student. She took the Access test. That's a English language proficiency test given annually. Her composite score on the Access test was 3.4. This assessment ranges from a 1, very beginning entering level, to a 6, so-called full proficiency, native-like proficiency, in air quotes there. And 3.4 kind of falls in the mid-range there. Maria's speaking and listening scores exceed the scores that she earns for reading and writing. That's a typical profile where speaking and listening would be stronger than reading and writing. You can look at the can-do descriptor breakdowns to learn further what that level 3 developing range entails, what the focus should be for Maria to be working on at level 3. That's what's listed in the can-do descriptors. Next, we have curriculum-based measure writing samples. There are 2 writing samples here. This test is given where the teacher reads aloud a sentence or story starter prompt, and then gives a minute of think time, and then 3 minutes of writing time. The first prompt, I was running on the sandy beach and the gigantic waves, ... The second prompt is maybe animals aren't supposed to talk, but so Maria had wait time, think time, and then she wrote for up to 3 minutes. These are typically scored by counting the total words written or by calculating the number of correct writing sequences, a procedure that you will learn and practice further in this program. The scores that these probes generate can be compared to norms using a percentile rank. So her total words written scores of 14 and 18 fall below the 10th percentile for grade 4. Likewise, her correct writing sequence scores also fall below the expected performance level. And at the midpoint of 4th grade, when she is completing these, the expected number of correct writing sequences, which is like 2 adjacent units of grammatically, semantically correct written language, is 28, and she was earning 6 and 8 respectively on those samples. The MAZE, M-A-Z-E, that doesn't stand for anything, reading probes are administered by reading aloud standard directions and then giving the students 3 minutes to read and circle the correct replacement from the set of words in parentheses. It's scored by counting up the number of correct replacements, and then we can analyze that score on norms for the MAZE reading assessment. Maria completed these probes using grade 2 passages. Over time, she's increasing the number of correct responses on the grade 2 passages, but she's still remaining below expectations, because what we would hope here is that on a grade 4 passage, a student would make 14 correct replacements. The final reading assessment that Maria took was the oral reading fluency curriculum-based measures. So again, a standard set of directions was read aloud. Maria had a minute to read as many words in the passage as she could. The assessor kept a running record, in this case just slashed errors. If there's nothing slashed, that means that she read all of these words correct. So what we see on these probes, 87 words correct per minute, 92 words correct per minute on the grade 2 probes, is a slight improvement from time 1 to time 2. And to interpret the data here using the most recent norms from 2017, we anticipate that in grade 4, students should be reading 94 words correct per minute, and an end-of-year goal in grade 4 would be 133 words correct per minute. So we'd want to increase the text complexity and also the reading rate for Maria. The student inventory shows us that Maria reports an unfavorable attitude toward reading. She notes that she reads a couple times a week, and she can select several types of genres as her favorite to read. Now, to write the current level of performance section of the IEP, and also to write the PLAFP statements for the IEP goals in an upcoming session, you're going to want to think through some additional hypothetical data. We don't have these data, so you'll need to generate them. In other words, make them up. And as you're doing that, attend to the fact that you're having to generate this because this is important, and in real life you may not have it either, but you would want to keep in mind the need to look for, ask for, and acquire these. In this case, looking for and asking for would really just be you coming up with hypothetical data. In real life, you would get the actual data. So under records, look at attendance records, any sort of behavioral office referrals. Is she making frequent nurse visits? What do her work samples show about reading and writing, and does that support the teacher's areas of concern in that teacher interview section? Elaborate on parent concerns, elaborate a little bit more on the student's attitude toward areas of need and strengths. Be sure to include any interests for Maria, any impressions from other teachers, and then think through what could you observe and what could you say about her self-advocacy skills, her work completion, peer relationships, affect, efficacy, confidence. We don't have other testing data. You can generate additional hypothetical data if you think more is needed and more is relevant. Otherwise, the suggestions here would be the minimum of what you'd want to generate to include in the IEP that you're writing for Maria.